And we're live. Okay, everybody. Welcome back. This is the final. I want to look down there. This is the final Strange Realities 2022 preview episode. And we've got the rest of the speakers. Maybe you could call them the best of the speakers. I don't know. The rest of the speakers for the 2022 Strange Realities Conference. And
if you're not convinced that this will be an absolutely fascinating 3 days, then this is our last plea to you. Go get tickets at strangerealitiesconference.com, online or in person in Nashville, Tennessee.
And actually, on this video, as you're watching it on YouTube, you can go down to the description of the video, and there's a link where you can buy a ticket. So if you want to see any of these guys speak, or us, or whatever you want to do at Strange Realities Conference 2022, go click that link and get your online ticket, or if you're adventurous, get your $70 in-person ticket. But tonight, we have Timothy Renner is with us.
Hello.
All right. And Wren Collier.
Yo.
And Christopher Ernst.
Hey, everybody.
And Seriah Azkath.
Greetings.
Thank you, Seriah. That was wonderful. And hopefully, I think we're going to be joined by Recluse a little bit later. Hopefully.
He's a little bit of a recluse, I heard.
He is a little bit of a recluse.
He's doing secret recluse stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's living up to the name right now. That's for sure. So tonight, guys, we're going to do what we've done the last 4 times on these preview shows. We're going to talk about what you guys are going to discuss, what you guys are going to do for Strange Realities Conference 2022, and then we can just have talk about just whatever you guys want to talk about. But I think who I want to start with is we can kind of go in order of who's going to be speaking tonight. And Wren, let's talk about what you're going to do, because this is going to be pretty interesting. You're going to speak at 7:30 to 8:30. We decided for astrological reasons, I believe.
Yep. Had to switch with Aaron Goulias.
Yeah,
to make sure I had the planetary hour timing down right.
Right.
So, what we're going to be going through is we're going to be doing the Via Solis Elixir Rite for Libra. This is a series of rituals that my mentor, Scott Stenwick, leads every month at Leaping Laughter Lodge up here in Minneapolis. Effectively, it is an angelic magic operation in which a group of people conjures an angel using Scott's operant field methodology, which I'll kind of briefly go into before we actually do the ritual. I won't have a whole lot of time to explain what we're going to be doing, because it's going to take a little while to actually do it. But once the angel is present, you have them imbue an elixir, or usually like a glass of wine, or it could be fruit juice. It could be whatever, depending on, people drink alcohol or not, with the magical powers of that zodiac sign. Then everyone drinks from the cup, gains those powers. They can enchant a talisman with a drop of the elixir if they would like. And then the angel is thanked, given the license to depart, and the ritual is closed out. The magical powers of the zodiac are they're in 777, if people are familiar with that. It's a huge list of occult correspondences. So for Libra, the magical power of Libra is it rules over works of justice and legal things. So it'll be a good way to get yourself a get out of jail free talisman for the most part. It should be a fun ritual, and I'm hoping that I've got a lot of people participating. I've been spending the last couple of weeks actually making a ton of Libra talismans to hand out as physical things at the ritual. Anybody who participates, it'll be free of charge. You'll get a handmade Wren Collier talisman made out of copper. an acid etched with some designs that I put on it. So yeah, hopefully people will get a kick out of it. I mean, it's like I've been doing these Via Solis Elixir rites pretty much every month for like the last, I guess, 3 years. There was a time, when things were locked down that we didn't meet, but for the most part, it's been an unbroken thing. And even if people are at home, I'm going to get Adam to like put out the text of the ritual and stuff. So if people are at home and they don't want to miss out on the fun, they could always follow along at home and kind of do their own solo version of it. It's entirely okay to do so. And hopefully it'll be like an informative thing for people, because I feel like a lot of people, they read a lot about ceremonial magic, but they don't necessarily ever practice it or have never really seen it practiced, and especially haven't practiced it themselves. So it'll be fun to take, hopefully, a lot of people who've never done a like complicated ritual before and like walk them through it and lead them through it and show them what it's like to actually be inside one.
Awesome. We really wanted to do some participatory things this year, and you're definitely helping out with that. That's something special. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you're gonna do a kind of like I think it's going to be about 30 minutes and an explanation, and I guess like the other 30 will be the actual ritual. I think it's how we're
probably, yeah. I need to do some dry runs of it just solo to see like how long it'll take. I think the actual ritual itself probably take half an hour. I mean, that's like a good amount of time. It can be variable because the angel does need to actually show up. So if they're taking a long time to show up, it might take longer. But I don't think we'll have any issues.
Well, so what if an angel really does show up, Wren? What happens? What happens?
What if it's gonna
if we have it? If we have this
going to be an angel there.
Manifestation in SIR Nashville on the stage, and
I
how would that affect the online viewers?
SIR is haunted after this.
Okay. It might be the most unique thing to happen at SIR Nashville. Well, at least since the last occult ritual that Alan Greenfield did last year. But
exactly, that was a bit of an inspiration for me. Like I was like, if Alan got up there and did that, I could definitely like get people up there to do this Via Solis, right? I'm just hoping that we don't look like that Poke Runyon documentary. Like we. That's the thing though. If you just watch ritual, right? You watch other people perform rituals, it's always a little goofy, it's always kind of a little like high school theater production kind of thing. But when you actually participate in it and you're like in it and you feel the energies and stuff going on during the ritual and you're saying the words and you're vibrating them and you're chanting together and everything, it's totally different from just like watching on the outside or just reading about it. It's like something that you really have to actually do to understand why it's powerful.
Right. So for video, you need lots of explosions and a light show, and I'm sure Adam
Yep.
Yeah, could we have some? I don't know if we can rig some pyrotechnics at SIR. It might be a little. They might frown on that possibly. It might be some fire code, things that they would frown on.
Just
hide
some C4 around the room and have it triggered when he says certain words.
C4. But yeah,
we're not trying to destroy the venue.
All amounts.
Yeah, I want you to throw the radio in the tub right out at peaks.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, really looking forward to that, Wren. I think that's going to be really awesome. How would people? Just to go a little bit further into how people online would participate in this?
So if you're online and you want to participate, you can right now simply go to my mentor Scott Stenwick's blog, which would be extremely difficult to spell out on this show. So maybe we'll put it in some show notes, or I'll get you to tweet it out, Adam. But on his blog, you can just search Via Solis Elixir Rite. Actually, if you just Google Via Solis Libra, right, you'll probably find a link to his blog. So if people want to do it online with us ahead of time, maybe just download a copy of it or have it pulled up on a screen. Get yourself a cup of juice or wine or something, and just follow along with us as we do the ritual in person. Like say the same words and stuff. So it's meant to be a group ritual. So some of the stuff you might kind of have to do all the parts yourself, but that's perfectly fine. And feel free to like read along with it or do whatever, or don't. Wait until after the show and do it. Do it all by yourself. But hopefully it'll get people some practical experience.
Okay,
Cool.
Excellent. Christopher Ernst will talk to you about what. See, so we're going to talk about the movie. We'll talk about that last here. But what are you are actually going to be going second on Saturday?
Yeah,
and that's 10:50 to 11:50 a.m. Central Time.
yes, indeed.
So it puts you in the morning. What are you going to be? I'm real curious to know what you're going to be talking about. We think we haven't really discussed it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of, besides making films that are, about other people and the things they've done, which is primarily, I think, probably what I'm best at. I kind of have one like thing that I feel like can contribute to the greater, I guess, occult, metaphysical, philosophical conversation, and that is to talk a little bit more about the Dattatreyan lineage and Meher Baba, the Meher Baba movement from most people are familiar with from the 60s, because my parents were a big part of it and my family was sort of big parts of it in the 60s in its resurgence. But I'm going to be talking specifically about sort of what came from that and what's the best way to describe it? It's something that has to do with like three main points. The idea of like Mahatmas, ascended masters, but also the idea of a autopoietic control system and trickster phenomena. So particularly in the paranormal. So not that it's going to be, delving deep into third order cybernetics or anything like that, but the idea of the control system. And, one can certainly, if they're familiar with it in terms of valet. So essentially what I'll be talking about is, there was this guru out of India in the 20th century, whose name he went by the name Meher Baba. There are many Babas that exist in India, and there was a big fad in both the beginning of the 20th century and then sort of a resurgence in the 60s of people being into like hippie love gurus in the 60s, and previously it was sort of the mystic Swami, and a lot of it is Orientalism, but there's an interesting there are some very interesting, I guess, circumstances and occurrences and things that had to do with this individual Meher Baba, who, for all intents and purposes, kind of comes off as like another guru, but was actually doing all sorts of really strange stuff or interesting stuff. I talked a little bit about this the last Strange Realities, very specifically in his work with these people that were called God mad, some of whom had cities powers, but were essentially, homeless, beggars in India and Southeast Asia, but who Meher Baba said were actually quite spiritually advanced and had to kind of be brought down from this existence and these different planes. So there's this larger cosmology that him and a couple of other individuals, Upasani Maharaj, Tajuddin Baba, Narayan Maharaj, and Hazrat Babajan, and Sai Baba of Shirdi, who were all, according to them, ascended masters, or they were, in fact, perfect masters, they called themselves. And it's very different from the theosophical sort of the way in which Blavatsky and Theosophy or anything subsequent to that, in terms of the Mahatmas or Ascended Masters, it's very different. It's a lot more like, I would say, maybe in the realm of Gurdjieff, especially because it comes from this weird mix of Vedantic, Sufi, and Muslim, or Sufi, Vedantic, and Zoroastrian influences. So basically, there is this entire cosmology that lists out, how magic and the different worlds, the different spiritual planes work, and it's interesting when you look at it combined with sort of the work that these guys were doing and the things that they were doing, because at least I am pretty sure, were convinced that they were actually doing this. And so they are under the impression, that the work that they're doing is essentially, making things happen here on Earth. And if you look at some of the things they did and the ways that they sort of went about it, the people that they met, the times in which they did things, there's some interesting coincidences. So basically, it's this current that's part of 20th century, esoteric, Western esotericism, Eastern esotericism, the occult in general, that hasn't really been, I guess, looked at or incorporated into the general history. And I'd say, anybody that's interested in, anything that's spiritual or intersection of religion and the spiritual with the esoteric, or things like Gurdjieff and the secret Sufis that he studied with, or Alexander David Neal or anything like that, it should be pretty interesting.
Awesome.
Sorry, I talk a lot because that's what I do.
That's great. It's really cool to see you continuing on this thread that you talked about at last year's conference. And so we're getting to see you elaborate on that, and encourage anyone to check out that as well. Would you encourage people to check that out as like a basis for understanding some of the stuff that you're going to maybe get a little deeper into this time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I did is I sort of took a very specific slice of that, which was this work and this book that was done. Because the interesting thing about all of this is that you have this voluminous amount of record keeping that was done by all of these people, especially these Westerners that got involved with it. And, while it might be subjective in the sense that it was written by these people, it's all these firsthand accounts of what happened. And yeah, the one that I talked about last year, people definitely should check that out, because it's, based around this book that this Dr. William Donkin wrote when he followed Meher Baba going around in India, and all these strange occurrences that happened. And, there's a lot of the stuff I'm talking about in terms of the esoteric cosmology that's talked about in there. Very interesting stuff. So I definitely think people check that out. And I won't be speaking specifically about these God mad people, the musts as they're called. So that will be a whole different thing if people are interested in it.
Is there a place people can see that stuff right now, Adam? Or is that not up yet?
It's on the old 2021 streaming group.
If you went last year, I think we were going to make some of that stuff available to Conspiranormal patrons pretty soon. But also a lot of the old Strange Realities conference material we're going to start putting up online if it is approved to do so by the speakers. So you guys should be able to check that stuff out soon.
Nice.
Yeah. Stay tuned definitely there's going to be a Strange Realities YouTube channel that I'm going to be putting some of the older stuff on. So
4 years.
Yeah. This is the 4th year. So, well, very, very cool. Chris, I'm really looking forward to that. Like, I love how I love that it's a part 2 of what you did last time.
Yeah.
Then do we want to go to what the other thing you were going to be doing at the
we could talk about that a little bit.
Conference, which includes another person on this panel here.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so let's talk about this movie that we're going to be showing, and that we have someone here that is the subject of said film.
Yes, him and Where Did the Road Go in general. I mean, Seriah can talk about what the experience has been like so far. It really, probably hasn't been that exciting for him. It's been a lot of me editing and stuff, but I essentially just started going up and hanging out with Seriah last year, and I've been up a few times, and I've recorded our conversations, or rather, I've recorded his side of the conversation. And the film's really kind of just a profile of Where Did the Road Go, which is Seriah in many ways. And, he talks about a lot of the main topics that have come up over the years, and some of the people that he's interviewed, along with some of, his personal esoteric history and some of his, theories. So I think anybody who likes Where Did the Road Go, I hope it's interpreted through my filmmaking style, but that's very much the subject, because I'm a fan.
What is the title?
The title is called Magicians Long to See, and it's stolen from Twin Peaks because it's me. There's the infamous poem from Twin Peaks where it says one of the lines is "The magician longs to see." But we're all magicians. We all long to see.
True.
Awesome. Well, Seriah, do you want to comment on what that experience was like? Was it like one of these reality shows with a lot of screaming and fighting? And
Yeah. Chris wanted as much action as possible.
Totally scripted. I handed him a script when I showed up.
Like I'd be on camera, he'd be throwing things at me, and we'd call it poltergeist activity and demons. And,
At the end of the film, we actually get to find out where the road actually has been.
Strangely, it goes by a Wawa.
Past the 7-Eleven and just
I'm at once honored and at once also super self-conscious about the whole thing. And then, I watched his rough draft and went, all right, I didn't annoy myself, so hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I credit that to Chris's editing.
Oh, thank you. No, and it'll be even better when you see it next time. Try to clean things up. That's what I'm doing right now. It's like I'll be working down to the wire, but it'll be worth it because I'll try to have all the I's crossed and T's dotted.
So this will be a world premiere?
This will be a world premiere and very special, I think, for anybody that is going to be able to watch it streaming too, because you might not ever see this particular version again.
Okay.
Not that it's going to be very different, but, the independent film goes through many iterations usually before it, Seriah, you can buy a DVD of it through the wheredidtheroadgo.com. And I expect that, there'll just be, sound tweaking, maybe a switch out a song or something like that. So
this will be the Strange Realities cut.
It absolutely will be. And I'm very excited to have it be the first time that there's a live premiere. It's the perfect audience, perfect place.
And we also went to a bunch of locations that weird stuff has happened to me. So a little bit of that's on there as well.
Yeah. And it's, I think, being somebody who listened and listens to Where Did the Road Go, I think there will be a lot of things that you hear Seriah talk about or refer to that you're going to get like a visual of it, or you're, hear him we'll sort of focus in on something. So I think that'll be really interesting for people.
I hope so.
Yeah. Everybody so far has been really interested in it. Even people that don't have any, vested interest in, I guess, the paranormal. I showed a clip to I'm a, film professor. And so I showed a clip of the, part of it that's done to my students, and they were really into it. They're like, I want to see the whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long is the film altogether?
A little over an hour.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So you cut it down from the 7-hour version.
Yeah, cut down from the 7-hour version. Not Disney's not going to buy it now because it's not 4 hours. But
so the reason I asked is that I've got basically a 2-hour slot for it.
So it's about an hour and 15 minutes. I say a little over an hour just because I don't know what. Yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. And then we'll do Q&A. I think that's a really good amount of time for it. We should be nice.
Cool.
Yeah, so what we'll do that night on Friday night, and I believe we're going to start this at 9 Central Time. What we're going to do is we're going to bring Seriah in from the ether. He's going to project his essence onto the stage.
Maybe Wren can help with that.
Wren, yeah, can you bring him like
Tupac
an ethereal,
hologram style?
An
Ethereal hologram.
holographic Seriah onto the stage, and no, just we'll do what we're doing now. It's Seriah will be streaming in, but so we'll do a little intro. Chris can talk a little bit about the film, and then we'll play the film, and then after the film is over, we'll have a little question and answer session, and that can be from anyone in the audience to anyone online as well. So we want to make the point that the film is going to be available for the online audience too, so you guys are going to be able to watch it on our channel, on our group, the private Facebook group that you guys are going to get in. So,
and you said there are alternatives to people who don't have Facebook?
Yeah, I'll have an alternative for that as well. Yeah. Okay. So Recluse is with us. Recluse, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. It's been a minute since I've seen you. We've got you speaking on Saturday night. That is 4:30 to 5:30 Central Time, and I think you're going to be there. You're going to be with us in Nashville, correct?
Yeah. I'll be there.
Okay. And what are you going to be speaking about?
Well, I mean, it kind of comes out of my ongoing obsession with like a lot of kind of ties with sacred geometry, and just the fact that a lot of weird stuff tends to go on in certain locations across the country, and I mean really across the earth in general. But I at this point only really have the budget to wander aimlessly around the United States. But it's fascinating also how like certain highways will seem to crop up in a lot of this stuff. I've recently been doing a lot of things on the farm with US Route 23, specifically going through Ohio. But of course, I mean, if you're familiar with it, it runs all the way from kind of the Great Lakes down to Jacksonville, Florida. And it's, a really fascinating place. It kind of goes right through in the midst of Edina and Hopewell country. In the southern Ohio Valley region. I mean, in fact, it goes, I think, from Chillicothe the other way down to like Portsmouth, passing through a lot of the major earthworks, including the Serpent Mound, and also the Sugarloaf Mountain, which was really the most holy spot in Hopewell cosmology. Their proverbial holy mountain, if you will. So it's kind of fascinating when you see this area, and then it's also sort of become awash with a lot of drug and human trafficking. It was really at the forefront of like the opioid crisis that broke out. To kind of put this in perspective, this was the same region where I think it was like the Roden family or something like that out of Ohio. The whole family was wiped out in that kind of drug altercation, I think back in 2016, 2017 around the border in Pikesville, I believe it was. They were growing cannabis, I think, in a couple of areas around the house, and it was almost, well, at least the public perception of it was almost like a kind of Romeo and Juliet thing mixed with the traditional Scots-Irish clan feud, where there had been a romance between separate members of these two rival families who also happened to be doing a little bit of drug trafficking and so forth. One decided to go out and meticulously murder the other one, and that's how it played out. But yeah, it's attracted a lot of that stuff. And the more I started to look at US 23 throughout the country, it occurred to me that this is pretty much going on everywhere. I encountered a lot of the same stuff in the portions of it in Georgia, which go through Atlanta, specifically Beaufort. A lot of these areas as well. And then, you kind of get into the western part of North Carolina. It's really interesting because there, in kind of the middle of nowhere, Asheville, you've got the Biltmore hotel or mansion, along with God, what is it? The Overlook Tower or something like that. I mean, it's just basically these massive Gilded Age structures in the middle of nowhere. There have been just rumors of a lot of strange activity around these spots for decades now. And I mean, if you've ever been to the Biltmore, I mean, it's just awash with a lot of highly esoteric symbolism and what have you, as are a lot of the remaining Vanderbilt residencies. And then, of course, going into Michigan, you've got a lot of the same issues with trafficking in Ann Arbor and Flint and the whole area with US 23. So I had started to kind of wonder, you know, I mean, was it just this particular area of the country or this particular highway that attracted all of this? And then it had dawned on me that Wisconsin also has 23. It's not part of US Route 23. It's separate. It's Highway 23. And it's really fascinating. It's up there by Spring Green, and it kind of is bookend on one side by Taliesin, Frank Lloyd Wright's studio house, and on the other end by House on the Rock, which Alex Jordan had built. And it's really kind of become a bit of a pop culture phenomenon thanks to Neil Gaiman, first through the novel American Gods, and then later it was brought into the TV series. And that was basically what I wanted to get into in my project that I was going to do for Strange Realities. Was first, what was it about this location that had attracted so many of these characters to it, like Frank Lloyd Wright and Alex Jordan and Neil Gaiman and a lot of other interesting people that we will address in the presentation. But also why it seemed like it was sort of epidemic with a lot of tragedy as well. Of course, this was famously where Frank Lloyd Wright's family, or not his family, his wife and her 2 children from a prior marriage, along with a good chunk of the staff, were actually murdered by the cook at Taliesin in 1914. And then a good part of the residential area was subsequently burned down in the immediate aftermath. It's very bizarre, and it almost is a reenactment in some senses of a classic, I mean, almost Druidic rite of sacrifice to several of the major deities, which I'll get into. And then, of course, I mean, kind of going into the modern era as well. I mean, it's another interesting place that's nearby was Circle Sanctuary, which I wanted to get into because it's been so pivotal in really the neo-pagan revival and a lot of other instances. But I mean, there was some just sort of strange things that I had turned up with it, especially with some of the theories floating around with Paul Dors, the Zodiac killer, and the fact that he was actually writing a lot of letters to Circle Sanctuary in the 80s, trying to basically establish a dead drop there while simultaneously trying to do the same thing with Soldier of Fortune magazine, which is really interesting if you know the history of Soldier of Fortune and what it was doing during the 1980s. So anyway,
is the Frank Lloyd Wright house, is that, are you talking about the one that's in, like, closer to Milwaukee? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the one in Wisconsin.
Does this kind of go across Wisconsin, like the
well, it's a north-south route. It's a little like it's about south of Madison, if I remember correctly.
I got you.
But it's kind of fascinating, that kind of whole area around Madison. I mean, has attracted so much stuff. Of course, Sauk City's near there, which is where Arkham Publishing was, Durlis Publishing House. Devil's Lake is nearby. There was like a commune thing dedicated to Hakeem Bay there. There's a spiritualist camp. It's just, yeah, it's really amazing. Again, I mean, the amount of characters that were drawn to that whole particular area. So something that I'm looking forward to getting into.
So is this kind of an idea that these geomancies versus both ancient and perhaps having to do with the old surveyors and the highway systems have kind of created these vortexes or vectors for these later things to happen?
Well, that's kind of something I wanted to explore, is, I mean, essentially how places do affect individuals. And I mean, how it almost does seem like that there are these, I mean, almost kind of cosmic dramas that play out in certain areas over and over again. I mean, of course, this whole, again, this whole area of southern Wisconsin, much like southern Ohio Valley, was just absolutely awash with, Native American earthworks. I mean, I think there was rumored to be around 20,000 mounds or something like that in the southern part of Wisconsin alone, along with like the Rock Hills and what have you. So it's just, again, it's really fascinating that the same regions of the country, seem to attract the same kind of energies. And, I can speculate that might be one of the reasons why there's so many unique individuals that are also drawn to these areas. Because again, it's, one thing I've always kind of marveled at since I started going to Wisconsin is how many just kind of like fringe artistic types have shown up there over the years. But having spent a fair amount of time there, I can see the appeal, though. It's certainly, a very inspirational place in a peculiar kind of way.
All right.
Yeah, that is fascinating, Stephen. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, we've been seeing you traversing the states and on your occult detective missions. It's been cool to watch.
I actually just got back from Arkin, Ohio. I was interviewing a source today, so yeah, I'm sorry that I'm a little late showing up to the party, but I just can't seem to stop wondering. I got back from San Francisco on Friday, I think, and already I got the urge to get back on the road again. So,
well, you just need that Airstream trailer in that 45, and you'll be a regular downer.
About it.
What were you in San Francisco? Yeah, go ahead, Wren. Go ahead, Wren.
There's a town in Wisconsin called Saint Germain, right? Have you been to Saint Germain yet?
No, I've heard of it though, but yeah, that's on the list, man. I almost like wonder if just by all the study and attention I brought to it from the high weirdness community, that this stuff is like just starting to manifest increasingly. I just found out about what's the guy, Harvey Strang character. This was the guy in 1844 after Joseph Smith was killed by the mob. Like, he allegedly got this letter from Joseph Smith appointing him the head of the Mormon Church. And for a brief period of time, he seriously challenged Brigham Young. Like, he got a fair amount of defectors to Burlington, Wisconsin, of all places. And then he tried to set up like another commune in Beaver Island. I think he successfully ran for like the U.S. Senate. He declared himself the king and monarch of Beaver Island. It's just bizarre. But then it's like on top of that, like just sort of how this plays into the broader history. So Burlington, Wisconsin later ends up, Burlington was a big part of helping Strang like forge this following, because the newspapers there were sending out like all these missives, across the country, hyping him up and what have you. So I think about 60 years later, they found the Burlington Liars Club, which was basically centered around journalism, trying to fabricate stories and what have you, and try to create sensations essentially in the press through this. And ironically, one of the guys who was a big member of the Burlington Liars Club was Alex Jordan, the creator of House on the Rock. And then, of course, with this whole sordid history as well, you got to wonder about the last name of the founder of this breakaway Mormon sect, Strang, Strang, which is the same as a certain figure in the Church of the Subgenius. And when you sort of consider how there's a certain parallel between Operation Mindfuck and what the Burlington Liars Club was doing with their letter writing campaigns over the years, kind of makes you wonder who else was aware of this history before it started to get a little more exposure in recent years. So, but Carrie Thorley was brought up in a Mormon household, so.
All right. So yeah, again, guys, that is 4:30 to 5:30 on Central Time. You're right before dinner break, Recluse. So,
and I think this is your third Strange Realities talk.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. It was the first one, 2020, that he did with the online, and then last year was there in Nashville. This year back in Nashville. Let's go to you, Mr. Renner. You've been at everyone. You've been at everyone. Yes, you've participated in everyone.
Ruined them all.
You are going to be last. We start with a Tim Badal, and we end with a Timothy Renner. We're going to do that again this year. I feel I think we ended with Josh though in 2020, so I don't think that.
Are you trying to show the two different spectrums of Tim? Like
Yes,
the two...
yes. the two axes that the paranormal world revolves around of Tim Manal.
The pillars
and
that hold up the universe.
So that is going to be 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock Central Time. You're going to be doing a remote presentation. And let's talk about what you're going to discuss with everybody.
Well, it's my favorite of all my presentations I do. I have about, I don't know, 6, 7 of them now. And this is my favorite one to do. The reason why is it's all my research. Now, not that I didn't do the research on the other ones, but say if I'm doing something on like disappearing evidence from where the footprints end, I've gathered the research, but it's a lot of other people's accounts and things that I've put together. This presentation on Toad Road and the Seven Gates of Hell it's all me, because the information that was out there before was garbage, and I'm the one who went out and said, no, let's figure this out and let's find out the real story. So it's all me, and I love doing it for that reason. I really, really love. If I can get excited about, more excited about one of these presentations, it's this one, because it was my first book, and since that time, I've gathered so much more information, and I started doing this presentation again this year because I found a bunch of new information and had a bunch more to add to it. So, again, I'm really, really excited about doing it. It's definitely my favorite one to do. So you will have a more animated Tim probably than when I'm doing any other presentation.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah. Are you bringing in kind of tying? Were you going to tie in a little bit of the Witch Cloud stuff? Is there as well, or?
Well, I mean, I was going to do a Witch Cloud presentation, but it ends up covering the same topics, so it's kind of the same thing. It's taking a local legend, it's breaking it down, and then figuring out like the real weirdness behind it. So essentially, I might as well do the Toad Road one. There's a lot more information there, and like I said, there's a lot more for me to dig into. So it's the similar concepts. So as I was working on the Witch Cloud presentation, I was like, this is basically the same presentation with less information. Might as well do Toad Road. I can talk about how it applies. So basically, it's my favorite thing to do is to find these little places, these little local to me. I would do it anywhere, but it's easy for me to get to these local places and just dig in and find everything I can about this one place with it. The history, the folklore, the urban legends, everything, and then kind of, dissect it and tie it all back together in the end.
Cool.
All right.
Would you mind playing a little song for us at the end?
I haven't played live in a long time, buddy.
Okay.
My since that MS attack, my hands are very numb. So I can play music, but maybe not live again.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Well,
yeah, we'll see if I ever play live again. If I get a good band, I'll play live again. But solo, I don't know.
All right. Yeah. Very, very cool, Tim. Always enjoy having you, and always enjoy talking to you. And
you've been here since the first, man.
Yeah, the very beginning. We flew you out here to Nashville.
And boy, were you on side.
What did you talk about? Was it the Pennsylvania Wild Man stuff? Was that?
Did I do the Pennsylvania Bigfoot that time, or so I think I did Pennsylvania Bigfoot, and then Josh and I did one together at that time, didn't we?
Right. Yeah. It looked really weird on the schedule because it looked like we were calling you the Pennsylvania Wild Man.
Way before I was ever writing books on Bigfoot, I used to do telephone work, and this one client, every time I come in, I look like this, except way less gray at the time. Every time I came in, the guy's like, "Wild Man." He used to call me Wild Man because of the way I look. So I've been a wild man for a while.
Cool.
Yeah, you and Josh did kind of, I guess, the proto "Where Did the Footprints End" presentation.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the last one
cool.
that evening.
That's all on YouTube right now, I think.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to go check that out.
Yeah, it is. I've got it up for Patreons, but you can also find it on Conspiranormal, because when we were getting ready for the 2020 conference, we replayed it. So it actually, the 2019 one is actually available. You just gotta look for it on Conspiranormal's
YouTube.
I was wanting to actually, Tim, I just listened to your 2 episodes with Brother Richard on Fatima. And I was honestly just kind of blown away by how great those 2 episodes were.
Oh,
and
thank
the
you.
extent of knowledge that Brother Richard has about it. What got you to wanting to talk about that particular subject?
Well, I'd heard some other paranormal folks cover it, and they basically, their coverage amounted to Fatima was a UFO, and that was the end of it. And it's way more than that. And my approach going into it was, we don't go to any other paranormal witness, and when they say, I saw a UFO, we don't go, no, you didn't. You saw something else. Or if they say they saw Bigfoot, we don't, no, you saw a dog band. It wasn't Bigfoot. We don't tell them what they saw. And that's one of the rules of Strange Familiars. We don't tell people what they saw. We let them tell us. And that's what I heard people doing. They're telling these people, oh, no. You did with Fatima, it's just a UFO. It's a big UFO. It was all just a UFO. And I said, well, let's take a step back and let's see what the witnesses actually said. And, when you say it's a UFO, you tend to leave out these early encounters with angels that the one seer was having years before Fatima was seeing this angel, this kind of heralding the Marian apparition that would come later. So there's a lot people miss when they just kind of write it off as a UFO. So that was really, the reason why I wanted to take it on, and having Brother Richard there just made that a lot easier. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is. It's a particular interesting subject to me too. I just was really kind of cool to get filled in on the details. I'm familiar with a lot with like the what is it, the prophecies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Brother Richard went into some of that.
Yeah, I mean, well, the secrets were revealed.
Yeah, the secrets. Yeah,
it's whether people accept them, the ones that were revealed as the real secrets or not. That's on them. But they were revealed. Like Sister Lucy said, they were revealed. So she's the one who had them. So yeah, if we're not gonna take her word for it, who's we gonna take?
Do you remember what the 3 secrets were? I'm trying to kind of remember.
Oh myself. My gosh! It's the vision of hell, basically the prediction of the Second World War, and then the 3rd secret has to do with the church and I don't know, like this apocalyptic stuff, but it's not like the date of the end of the world that a lot of people said it was going to be.
Yeah, I think there were some people that said that they were disappointed by what the actual secret was, and that's why you have that conspiracy theory that the 3rd secret, they didn't reveal the actual 3rd secret. A lot of that comes from the Malachi Martin stuff.
There's the whole conspiracy that Sister Lucia was replaced by the McCartney by another Sister Lucia later in life, and they got her to say this and that. But it's like Brother Richard said, if there's first of all, people are interested in secrets, but if the secret comes out and it's not what you've wanted it to be all these years, that there's a great temptation to say, well, that wasn't the real secret then, right?
Chris Ernst, you were talking about something about that there's some similarities between some of these Marian apparitions and some of the tradition that you were kind of raised in. Some things that are parallels to some of these holy men.
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea of miracles, again, is, it's a big part of this sort of spiritual hierarchy that exists within this cosmology that comes out of the, particularly from Upasani Maharaj, Meher Baba, and to some degree Sai Baba of Shirdi. but really it was only the former two that had their I guess teachings recorded by people. But the idea is that miracles are, there's two things here happening. Is that one, it's part of a control system that is the spiritual hierarchy. And you've heard some sort of, some of this comes from people who are familiar with more obscure Sufi esotericism, this idea of the Abdal, which is essentially, it's usually looked at as some sort of demon or spirit. But, according to the writings collectively of these guys, not writings, but the recordings, this is part of a hierarchy of sort of control system that is shepherding creation, and that miracles are either part of that, or they are byproducts of what is called spiritual involution, which is I'll save some of this for the presentation, but it's basically a inverse, almost like a inverted toroid of evolution. Yeah. I just said inverted toroid of evolution. Yeah. So
totally.
What are we gonna do after that? I mean, come on.
Sentences that have never been said before.
We're all madly typing into Google. Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that you can expect.
Yeah, you can expect from me. That's what. Yeah, toroid. If anybody's familiar with it, there's sort of like a cosmological idea of the universe. It's a self-contained geometric structure that collapses in upon itself, the toroid. Yeah. I think I'm saying that sort of correctly.
That's what you see when you megadose. That thing
pretty much.
My dark ambient noise.
Yeah.
Tim, you said you were going to do more about Moorian apparitions.
Yeah, we're doing a whole series. So we'll get into some more of the approved ones coming up. Probably going to do it like a 2 for show coming up, because the Fatima with like 2-in-1 show. The Fatima was like a major deep dive. I don't want to do Lourdes next because it's going to be an equally deep dive. So we'll probably do 2 of the somewhat lesser known ones, and then we'll maybe jump on Lourdes or La Salette, or I don't know. I'll see. Whatever moves me at the time. But yeah, we're going to do a whole series of these.
I know very little about Lourdes. I'm really interested to hear about. Yeah,
it's in many ways it's very similar to Fatima. It's a young person who's very poor and disbelieved, and comes out. One of the amazing things is like the memory, the recall of these seers, these witnesses. They just have this. They're able to come out and just speak this incredible, pages and pages of prayers and information that they've been related. But when you see it again and again, if it just happened once, but you see it again and again with these seers and these different apparitions, and it's like one of the side effects. This is incredible memory. So she has that. She's got these, kind of religious ideas that are well beyond a person of her age that she's coming out with, that are baffling people, much like the Fatima seers. There's a lot in common. Very interesting. I forget exactly how many apparitions there were at Lourdes. There's quite a few.
And that's the site that is there a spring there? Because I remember the water of Lourdes, right? That is
Well, it was a little grotto, and the apparition told her to dig. And so during one of the apparitions, she dug into the ground, and basically water came up. So, and then people, they had it like a little bit of water, and then people afterwards came and dug, and there's a spring there. So basically the apparition told her, dig here.
What do you think we're kind of dealing with when we're talking about the Marian apparitions? I mean, are we dealing with it's an interpretation that this is Mary? I mean, it seems from what is said that it is very much like she's saying that she is Mary, but there's also a school of thought that, that this could be interpreted and this could be some other kind of Well, I mean, I guess the supernatural is in the eye of the beholder. So there you go. But what do you think? And feel
I'm
free,
Catholic.
anybody else to, yeah,
I'm
feel
Catholic,
free,
so
anybody else to join in on this. So
for me, it's Mary because I'm Catholic. But as Brother Richard says, and like I've stolen this from him, I think it's such a great way of phrasing it. Whatever all this stuff is, UFOs, the other, whatever. It seems to be using the same channels. So you get a lot of these same effects, whether it's a Marian apparition or a UFO sighting or whatever, the buzzing, the hum, the wind that stirs up beforehand. Some of the witnesses were reporting like loud sounds under the ground or sounds like rockets and stuff. So you get a lot of these same effects around this stuff, whether it's a Marian apparition or a UFO or poltergeist, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the way Brother Richard phrases it. It's using the same channels. But for me, as a Catholic, it's Mary. But I certainly don't force that belief on others, and even when we talked about it on the show, Brother Richard and I, two Catholics talking about it, I said, hey, take the religion or don't take the religion, but at least take in what the witnesses are saying, and then you can believe or disbelieve the religious parts. That's up to you. But if you're asking me personally, I'm Catholic, so
I'm not Catholic, but I also agree with him. It's Mary.
Yeah.
And believe that notion.
Believe it or not, that was what in the writings from the very strange series of gurus that I know about, that it is Mary also, and that Mary has a very particular station. It's almost like a mantle. The mantle of Mary is a very important part of the hierarchy, and she has special dispensation to be able to work through miracles. That is her. One of her, I guess, attributes.
Which doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't go against Catholic teaching. That would be, pretty.
No, well, to get into, not to do too many spoilers, but it's the way in which the spiritual sort of cosmology is set up is inclusive in many ways of some of these things. Yeah.
I'm interested in something, Tim. Do you feel like through your exploration of this, has it changed your faith at all, or has it simply supplemented it, or were you always this faithful?
No, it's changed it. There's been some, I've had some interesting things happen. So synchronicities abound. Just like when you're chasing Bigfoot and you're chasing this other stuff, when you chase this, synchronicities abound. And I've had some things that have just been like, oh, okay, all right, that have really kind of turned my head. Relics have been sent to me, which I've opened the package and it filled the room with the smell of roses. My wife was across the room, her back turned to me. I opened the package and she said, "Oh, roses," and it was just, it's just this relic that was sent to me. It's stuff like this is happening frequently around this stuff. So the same synchronicities I get when I'm, like I said, when I'm pursuing this other stuff, they're happening, or same sort of synchronicities. They just seem to be related more to this stuff. But yeah, for me, I guess the Catholic line is you can take the apparitions or not. You don't have to believe them. But for me, it's been a great reinforcement of my faith. Major thing for me.
And not just the ones that are accepted by the Catholic Church, but there are others that are not as accepted.
Yeah. Yes, and they get kind of controversial. I'm not the guy to talk on that. I think Brother Richard would be more the guy to talk on that. But
sure.
For me, it's kind of follow your heart and listen to what's being said. And a lot of these, even though they're not approved, are pretty interesting. And there's nothing that they're not telling me to go out and whatever, join. I don't know. They're not going against the teachings as far as I know. Let's put it that way. But again, I'm not the guy who knows why these things are approved, nor the guy to approve them.
You've got the I think my favorite Catholic full saint is Saint Guinefort, the dog. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not sure.
He's a He's basically a Catholic folk saint that's revered in France, but he was a dog that belonged to a nobleman who
Yes.
was
Okay.
like,
Yeah. The actual dog. Yeah.
yeah, he's an actual dog. Yeah, he came back. The guy came back and found his baby dead. With like blood everywhere, and the dog had blood on him. And in anger, he kills the dog. But in reality, he then discovers the body of a snake, and that the dog had actually killed the snake to protect the baby. And so he like buries it in the woods, and they're like miracle associated with like where it's buried and stuff. So I don't know. That's like one that's not like officially recognized by the church as far as I know, but it's a really popular like folk saint.
Yeah. I love folk saints. They're just fantastic stories with them.
Red, coming from the world of the occult as you do, what makes you see that this is Mary?
Well, I mean, I have, I don't know, my relationship at this point with like Christianity is a little complicated, but because I say that I'm a Thelemite, but then all the magic that I do is like powwow and folk magic and angel magic and that sort of thing. That's always bringing up Christ and stuff. So I don't know. Like honestly,
are you worried you're becoming an esoteric Christian?
I think that's like a different thing, though, right? That's like Alice Bailey, right?
Well, it can be in several variations, I'm sure.
I mean, I definitely, as far as like my magical practice goes, doing sort of Christian folk magic has become a major part of my practice ever since I actually, like, my first exposure to powwow and stuff was Tim, listening to Tim's show and like learning about it and stuff. And then finding out that my great grandmother rubbed warts off my dad's hands when he was a kid, and realizing that I had a family history of it, and I'm from Appalachia. And so studying that like cunning tradition like was a natural thing for me to do. And there's no separating that tradition from Christianity. The people who practice it don't consider it magic or anything. They consider themselves Christians. So, there's a certain, I have to engage with it in a certain degree, and
I think that's kind of a common trajectory for people who often from like a, anti-establishment, if not anti-Christian point of view, who are interested in the occult, and they end up being, some kind of esoteric Christian, really.
Yeah. I mean, well, you end up having, like Tim said, you end up having experiences that sort of change the way you think about faith and the way you think about the world. And, in my case, I don't know if it's led me full circle there, but it certainly changed the way I think about Christianity and the way I engage with it. And as far as like the Mary thing is concerned, I mean, honestly, when you're dealing with spirits or apparitions, I mean, I think it's simpler just to believe they are what they say they are. Like if they say they're Mary, and the people who have the visions and stuff believe it's Mary, well, then it's Mary. I mean, like, there's no, I don't know, like trying to. It's like when you're looking at things like this, looking at it from a phenomenological standpoint seems to make more sense, right? Instead of trying to explain it away or to figure out what's really going on, just taking it at face value and understanding like how it affects the people who experience it, I think is much more valuable.
Yeah, there's schools of thought out there that would say that everything is a deception. That's one of, everything is demons. We've talked about that many times. But yeah, so you're just saying just take it at face value. See, I think that like the everything is demons thing, you can just get so caught up in just saying and not trusting literally anything. Like at a certain point, you have to be able to trust something. You have to be able to trust your own intuition. I mean, at some point, it just can't be just like literally everything that comes out you is a demon or a bad malevolent spirit. Not to say that there isn't such a thing.
Yeah.
But it's like it just has to be kind of your own interpretation of what you believe that it could be.
Yeah. And it can be sort of a dangerous thing because, I do believe that there are malevolent entities out there, right? And they do tell people lies, and there are good entities out there that tell people good things. Like I think a lot about like the contactees and how very similar the messages that they received were to like the messages that like Humphrey Gilbert received when he was doing spirit conjuration work and stuff. The spirits were telling him, oh, he's like a chosen one. Oh, he'll they specifically told him that he wouldn't die at sea. Can you guess how he died? Like some things are trying to deceive you. And so it's like you have to approach, I don't know, it's so difficult because it's like if you're truly like a faithful person, right, and the Virgin Mary appears to you, like, I mean, your faith says that you should listen to her, right? I mean, I'm not sure, like, should you question it? Like,
I think Adam's kind of saying like it's like either that everything is trickster can be just as bad as everything is demons.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, just doubting every single thing, because ultimately, I think I've come to an acceptance of the fact that like I'm never really going to understand like what is going on, like, right, like what is behind everything, right? The best I can do is just like engage with it and interact with it, and try to see what it wants to say. But like I think like chasing the root of it is probably a fool's errand.
The Tim that came from Chaos Magic, when he was confronted by, Mary, just wouldn't leave me alone. Just kept popping up in my life. At some point came to a conclusion. This is a very Chaos Magic sort of way of looking at it, where I just said, look, I don't care if you tell me she's a goddess. I don't care if she was a real person. I don't care. I don't care. I only know she works for me. And and that was like kind of my doorway back into, more traditional Catholicism. And in some ways I still kind of, part of my mind has been infected by that 90s, late 80s, early 90s kind of Chaos Magic thinking, question everything and all that. And part of me still kind of like, is there, where it's just like, well, I don't care what it is. I don't care. It works. Yeah. I don't care. But, in a way, the cynicism, I think, is as I get older, I'm just removing it, just like that cynical thing. And like Wren said, it's more just like, no, I'm just going to accept this, as it is, or as it seems to be, until proven otherwise.
Seriah, you've been quiet through this whole thing. You have any thoughts? As I caught you mid yawn.
I don't want to be completely contrarian, so I was just keeping quiet.
I gotcha.
I mean, to me, I question everything. I will deal with stuff as it suggests it is, but I don't necessarily believe anything is what it says it is, or really that anything is what it seems. I think all of this stuff is appearing to us in a way we can comprehend or that we put on it. I don't think any of it is exactly what it seems to be. And that goes for UFOs, Bigfoot, Marian apparitions, whatever. They're all kind of interconnected, as Tim was saying, as, like it's the same, using the same sort of mechanism to communicate with us. And I think once it takes on a form, that form gets strengthened, the more people who interact with it with that form. So I'm not sure I believe in any of the stuff as it is, but I think there's something real happening. And once, if you have a way that you can interact with it that works, then you use it. But I never fully believe it is what it says it is.
It would have been so perfect if you could have just ended that with the butthole surfers thing. And by the way, tell your mother I said, Satan, Satan, Satan.
Recluse, you got any thoughts? You weigh in.
I mean, I tend to be closer to Seriah's way of thinking on that. I mean, I've always kind of been of the opinion that, the human mind isn't necessarily capable of comprehending things like non-human intelligences. I mean, I don't know if we necessarily have like the framework to even begin to understand, there are like desires, that kind of thing. So yeah, I tend to think that even if they're attempting to present themselves in an honest fashion, it might be geared towards a sense in a way we could understand it, but not necessarily what they actually are, if that makes any sense. So I do think that, I mean, yeah, there's a healthy dose of skepticism is always like warranted when dealing with anything that isn't human, frankly. So I apply the same standards to algorithms and AI and that other kind of thing too. So I'm an equal opportunist as far as this kind of stuff goes. But yeah, but then again, that assumes that the rumblings of some kind of sentient AI on the computer or what have you isn't actually a algorithm that's been inhabited by a non-human intelligence. What is that, like an extended intelligence or something like that? So
what about Recluse? That's also assuming that all of these things are non-human intelligences, when in like a lot of my own experience and research, I feel like a lot of these things were human at some point. In a lot of cases, they're like the dead. They've maybe been dead so long that they don't really remember being human. But I think they some of them can really. I do agree with you that there are some things out there that are alien, right? That are
and I mean alien in the sense that just like they're totally outside, I think, the human mind. Yes, I do agree. I mean, there's different cosmology. I mean, spirits of the dead. I mean, again, depending upon how much of the literature you want to go into with Grant or some of the continuing stuff with the Cybernetic Cultural Research Unit or what have you. I mean, time travel is possible. You can tap into future consciousnesses that humans, the Homo sapiens, will inhabit at a distant future. So, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, maybe it actually is a human consciousness, just one that's been significantly evolved to some extent. And then, I mean, of course, there's the, litany of traditions of some kind of alternate or, evil Earth or something like that. I mean, almost a kind of, Black Lodge kind of thing from Twin Peaks, to kind of give the audience an example of this. But this is, something I was really fascinated by in like the Hopewell and the Adena cosmology. I mean, they have sort of like the three tiers of reality, kind of like Middle Earth, which is the realm that we inhabit. There's the upper world, the kind of the sky realm, the dominion of the Thunderbirds. There's the underworld, which would almost be kind of like akin to the abyss or something that's inhabited by the horned serpents and this kind of thing. But then there's also this whole concept of the other world, which, I mean, with this whole sort of twin or evil Earth, basically, where time ran backwards and all this other kind of stuff. In Grant's cosmology, that's basically the same thing, where you would go, to kind of the night side tree of life after you've gone through the abyss, and then boom, you're there in this kind of evil Earth where also time was compressed and you could see all of the past and the future. So, I mean, it is interesting that there are a lot of these different kinds of traditions, and I mean, that kind of raises some interesting questions about, well, are you possibly being communicated with by your double, but your evil double? And then again, I mean, depending upon how much you want to go into some things like, simulation theory or something like that. Well, I mean, how many simulations have potentially been built? What if there are simulations that have been built of you that have now been unleashed online that are trying to communicate with you? I mean, is that not a mind fuck?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've said before on a couple of these shows that I definitely think, based on some of the out-of-body experiences that I've had, that in some cases you're dealing with people who are dreaming. Like, to us, it looks like a ghost.
I could definitely.
What it really is a person in another parallel world having a dream about, and they're in our world for a little while. I think that could help explain things like doppelgangers as well.
Yeah. I kind of think sometimes with deja vu too, as well. That's kind of like, I mean, I actually just had a really sudden sort of experience of this recently, and I kind of had that similar thought, like, well, what if it's, something where I dreamed this from like an alternate reality where I was having this particular conversation in that, universe per se, and now I'm like, it's suddenly kind of occurring to me in this one as I'm now going through it in this plane or whatever. Like I said, it gets into some pretty woo-woo kind of stuff. You really go down some of these rabbit holes.
And that's what Strange Realities is all about, these diverse opinions and cosmologies and approaches to studying all this phenomena.
You'll hear this kind of stuff in the hallway, I'm sure. Well, gentlemen, this has been really awesome. Thank you for doing this. I want to, before I give any kind of spiel about get your tickets, let's talk about where you guys, people can find you. Recluse, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm the host of the Farm Podcast, Mach 2. You can just find that in Google. It's the Farm Podcast, Mach 2, and Apple and Spotify. And also, I've got my Patreon set up for that. Got 2 different tiers on there. Lowest tier, you get 2 additional full-length shows per month. And then the all-access one, Zoom parties, and all kinds of updates on the investigations I'm doing in addition to those extra shows and a lot of other goodies. And I'm also the author of A Special Relationship, Trump, Epstein, The Secret History of the Anglo-American Establishment, and Strange Tales of the Parapolitical, Post-War Nazis, Mercenaries, and Other Secret Histories, which are available on Amazon in physical for copies.
The Jeffrey Epstein book is part 2 going to come out at some point?
Well, I got the Discordian / QAnon thing that I'm working on / psychological warfare thing, but hopefully part 1 of that will be coming out in early 2023. I'd like to get both out in 2023. That's a very fitting year for Discordian history to come out, I would say. So here's hoping.
True. Chris Ernst, where do people find you?
You can go to brightrectangle.com. It's got my film stuff. That's about it. Or you can hear me when I'm on Where Did the Road Go, but I haven't been recently because I've been way too busy working.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
Yeah, I know. Soon. After Strange Realities.
All right. And Wren Collier.
So I have a blog at liminalroom.com. I'm also on social media. On my blog, you can also find some links to my Discord server and my Etsy shop, which currently doesn't have anything for sale, but should have some more stuff here soon because I'm getting back in the swing of making things again.
And Seriah?
wheredidtheroadgo.com for everything Where Did the Road Go related. And thelastexit.org if you like metal.
All right. And who doesn't like metal? And Timothy Renner.
Strangefamiliars.com will get you links to just about everything involving me. That's where the podcast is. You can also find it everywhere you find podcasts. My books are on Amazon. I also have an Etsy shop. We just did glow-in-the-dark Strange Familiars t-shirts. So
Hey, cool.
you get glow-in-the-dark Strange Familiars t-shirts, and we have the regular ones as well. And Alba Twitch Day this weekend, October 8th in Columbia, Pennsylvania. I will be speaking there.
And I'll be hanging out with them.
Seriah will be lurking in the background.
Exactly.
All right. Well, and we'd like to say too, we will have t-shirts at Strange Realities Conference for everybody. So come purchase your t-shirts when you're there, or let us know online, and we could possibly get those sent out to you. That's it, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys. All 5 of these gentlemen will be at Strange Realities. Well, strangerealitiesconference.com in some capacity. Final thing, get your tickets. $70 for in-person, $30 for online. Get them soon because supplies are running out in this economy. So we want to also say that after the conference and after this episode, we will be going dark for about a month because we're going to recover from the conference and everything that we're doing. We'll be back in November to finish out the rest of the year on Good Spirit Normal. All right, guys, strangerealitiesconference.com. Not going to remind you again. Get your tickets. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Stay on the lot. Stay on